step this way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, this is Elevation 5280 Sports with Matt Mascarenas.
Want me to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang. Matt included.
The Denver freaking Nuggets are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they are coming for that you-know-what. There is nothing that can stop this team. Strap in with me. It is time to watch a Denver Nuggets championship run.
And Michael Spillin.
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Denver Nuggets playoff push. I'm excited for the rest of the season, but Matt, they cannot be losing to teams like Orlando on the road, like Memphis on the road, but I'm excited either way, and it is going to be a fantastic finish. They are almost in the exact same championship window the Avs were in last year. And speaking of the Avs, do not count them out just yet.
Matt's an okay dude, but he's a dummy.
Michael!
Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Now, Matt and Michael are on.
And welcome into it on this beautiful Sunday morning here in the Mile High City as we get going here on this Game 4 Sunday. Matt, a lot of NBA playoffs to talk about, a lot of NBA officiating to talk about, and a lot of free throws being had for one team and really not the other. We'll get into that here in just a minute. We may look into the NHL playoffs as well. And guess what, Matt? The Rockies are not the worst team. In fact, there's a few teams below them now.
Right.
In Major League standings. We'll get into all of that as well. But, Matt, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, good coffee this morning. Made the boys some cinnamon rolls. They're killing those right now. I had some bacon going, so pretty good morning. How about you?
Only got about, I would say, 3 hours of sleep.
Ooh.
And not hitting on these parlays. All I needed, Matt, on Friday night was Aaron Gordon to get his average, which is around 15 points in these playoffs, and he had 9. And I would not be sitting here this morning if I hit that.
You be out of here?
I don't know where I'd be. Probably still here.
What's,
we have
umbrella drinks and on Con Air, what's that? Umbrella drinks and naked freaks, something like that.
Yeah,
that's where you'd be.
Yeah, that's where we would be this morning. And yeah, I mean, Game 3 on Friday night, Matt, was interesting. You had Devin Booker, who could not miss a shot. I mean,
right.
Everything he threw up went in. I mean, just everything was going in for Devin Booker. 40 plus points in a playoff game, Matt. If you do that, I mean, you're doing something right. And KD, I mean, two guys. I mean, we're going to get into this. Two guys combined for 86 points, man. You only win by 7 at home. The next highest guy on the Suns, Matt, was 7. 7.
Is that's not a formula for victory, is it? I don't see how that could be a formula for victory.
I can see Devin Booker get his. I can see Devin Booker getting, 30, 35 plus any given night, but he's not going to shoot 80% again. I hope he doesn't shoot 80% again. But also Kevin Durant's not going to shoot 33% again. Kevin Durant lived at the free throw line on Friday night. He was the only guy up until Devin Booker in the last 2 minutes, Matt, of that game to shoot free throws.
That is, and as you can see, the title of the show, if you watch, I don't know if you did, if you watched the Lakers and this Golden State game yesterday, I've watched the series, just watched the series. That is a big topic of discussion, is the free throw line. And you look at it in the Philly Celtics series too. You can look at it there. So, yeah, I mean, it really makes you wonder It really does make you wonder sometimes about the way the way the whistle's blown in these games sometimes.
Yeah, I think the Lakers had 37 free throw attempts last night, and I forgot to pull it up here, but 37 free throw attempts for the Lakers, and you can hear Steve Kerr, Stephen Curry in the press conferences last night after the game was over, not really blaming the officials and Draymond Green. Draymond Green, I think the most worded answer he gave was about 4 words in his answers. Stephen Curry said, we were getting into the spots and stuff, and the game stopped. We were doing this, and we were getting in rhythm, and the game stopped. We were set up on defense, and then the game stopped. That to me saying everything we tried to do, there was an official or there was a stoppage in play because of a call or whatever. And, man, I think it evens out at some point. I think it'll go both ways at some point. I'm sure when the Warriors are at home, they are the beneficiaries of that home team call or something like that. It was the first game back in LA in this series. And so maybe that's the case. I don't know. Draymond Green was asked, do they explain to you what a blocking foul is, what a charging foul is? Because they challenged his 4th foul, and it was obviously unsuccessful. And it was, he said, do you guys get an explanation of this? And he said, we never get an explanation. So,
Yeah.
And it was funny on the broadcast last night. It was when I forgot who went up for a layup, and Draymond Green hit the dude's head, and maybe you can remember who this was. And then our old buddy Jermichael Green was in there as well, getting physical. And I forgot who they called the foul on, but they had to review it because the guy fell to the floor, and they were going to see if it was a flagrant one or whatever. And Jeff Van Gundy said, he's like, and then as they were reviewing, Mike Breen, the commentator, was like naming the officials, their names and stuff. Jeff Van Gundy goes, if this is a flagrant foul, this is the last game all 3 of these referees should work.
Oh man. And that's true. That's like there was and even on the I feel like every series that I have seen, that I've watched, or even every series going on right now, there's that kind of discussion between the people calling the game and then the officials, and even the officials that are like coming on to talk about, like I saw Steve Javion, and like you mentioned, the other official that was coming on to help and explain what's going on. They've been kind of like caught off guard with the way these fouls and these calls have gone. And you mentioned it already. The biggest thing that these fouls cause is the lack of momentum and the lack of flow in the game. Like you said with Curry, was they get going and get in rhythm, and then boom, the whistle will blow. And then and you saw that in that Nuggets game in the second quarter when it was like 8-9 minutes left in the game, and the Warriors, but the Suns are already in the bonus. And the commentators even made it that statement that, oh, here we go, get ready for a free throw, rest of the quarter. And then that's when the Suns built their lead. The clock was dead. Kevin Durant was shooting free throws every time he came down the floor. So that aspect of the officiating in these playoffs have, in my opinion, have really hampered otherwise what could be really good series with the free throws. And it's, I can't explain it to the point of where, X's and O's and what's a foul and not a foul, but the flow and the way that they're calling these games right now, it doesn't make any sense. And it looks really bad for one team and really good for the other team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And going back to what I was saying before, 37 free throw attempts for the Lakers last night, 17 for the Warriors, just to kind of give you a discrepancy when it comes to that. And, one of the big calls in game 3, Matt, Friday night in Phoenix was the Devin Booker play where he was driving and, it pushed off. Jamal Murray goes And I don't really think it was really all that embellishing on Jamal Murray because, you're running backwards. If you get pushed, you're probably going to go down. Your momentum's going to carry you down anyway. So I don't think it was any acting by Jamal. He was just, he was pushed and your momentum's going that way. Any of us who walk backwards aren't as comfortable as walking forwards.
Right.
So you're going to stumble a little bit, fall down. That's just the nature of being a human, I guess. So that got reviewed. It was not upheld. Now we're hearing if you want to charge, you have to be. It's always been you have to be set. You're not in position.
Yeah,
I get it. If you're moving, whatever. So it was reviewed, not overturned. But then minutes later, man, and we talked about this. Devin Booker comes flying down and pushes Jamal Murray, and then they give that his fifth foul for Devin Booker. And honestly, I thought the second call was more an offensive foul than what they reviewed, but that's just me.
Right. And that stuff, and we've talked about it, through message, we were chatting about it. And what happens with these games and in the NBA is just in basketball in general, but in the NBA, you want to get a sense of how the game is going to be called. And especially on the offensive end, if they're going to call offensive fouls, and they were calling offensive fouls earlier in the game. And I remember they were calling, they called a push off on, I want to say it was Jokic. Maybe there was a couple more that there was some picks that guys were running through or not running, then they were calling offensive fouls there. So if you were calling those offensive fouls in those certain situations, and then you come down and you don't call what Devin Booker, because like you just said, that momentum and everything that was going, and you got in contact at the point of the game. If you're going to shut down and not blow the whistle there, but then blow it like 5 minutes later, and I don't remember if it was the same official that made that call that didn't make the call earlier. So if it was like a makeup call situation, which does happen in the makeup call situations, it's not like that official is out there looking for a makeup call. Like I gotta get this guy back. So if this happens, he's not thinking about that. It's more of a reactionary situation. Like that wasn't that bad, but I didn't call the last one, so I'm going to call this one. And if you're officiating a game like that, you're not doing it right. And you're not calling the game down the middle. You're not being biased. You are essentially trying to control the game. And in a lot of situations with these NBA officials, that's where you try to control the game. That's where the control of the game comes from. That's where the flow, that's where if in the officials' mindset, they'll come off. And I even heard Steve Javie, who was one of the guys that was doing, I think it was on the ESPN broadcast. I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say it was the ESPN or ABC. He was coming on. They were talking about a flagrant foul. And I want to say it was in the Boston and the Philadelphia game. And there was a flagrant foul. And Steve Javie even said that it's not enough if it's not enough for this, it's a common foul, but I don't think it's enough for this, blah, blah, blah. But I would call this foul. I would call this a flagrant right now so I can set a tone for the rest of the game. And nobody said anything. Nobody reacted to that. But right there, if it's not a foul and if it's not going to affect that game, but these teams were choppy and then chippy and doing the things, and if you make a flagrant foul right there, it sets a tone. That's the mindset of some of these officials. Steve Javie's one of them, and I want to say Zelensky. I think that taller guy is one. I can't remember his first name. And then we know Brothers is one. There's no one that's skipping my mind right now. That's real bad for it. Zach Sarba. Everybody, he was the one that decided not to call that foul on Joker when Payne hit him in the no-no area. So there's a lot of situations like that where those officials are thinking, I'm going to control the game. I'm going to take over the game by blowing the whistle. And that's what is hurting and killing these playoffs right now.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that campaign groin hit to Joker. And it's funny because all other nut punches in these playoffs have been called.
Right.
And honestly, I thought I believe James Harden. I don't think that was intentional at all. That probably looked the least intentional of all of them. But Cam Payne literally looked and saw Joker coming and leaned into him, and they don't call it.
And
And I'm not saying
the thing that in this series that the refs need to get a handle on is the off-ball stuff with Joker. And I'm not crying being a whiny Nuggets fan right now. I would want any player that's running through the lane or trying to get to his spot, and you have another player, defensive player, getting in his way, putting his hip out. There was a couple things Booker was doing, Payne was doing. The Australian guy, I can't forget his name now, that came in for Ayton.
Wendell.
That guy's a straight up thug. That guy's a straight up like if you talk about an enforcer or somebody's that's in there just to get fouls and piss somebody off, that's what that guy's in there for. So if the refs let Phoenix do this again, I mean, I don't know. And I'm talking about with the Phoenix game in particular, but if they let them do that to Joker, and I feel like they've protected him a little bit, especially at home, but on the road, it's going to be tough to get a win. It's going to be tough to get out of there tonight if that physicality is still there. And typically, Mike, I mean, I know you've seen it. We've all seen it. And Michael Malone doesn't do this often where he goes out and complains about officials. Monty Williams did it, and look what happened. Phil Jackson used to do it all the time. I mean, all these great coaches used to do it where they would come out and complain about officiating, and then the next game they get all the whistles. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I just want them to protect the dude when he's trying to go through his offense and get to his spot and he's getting hit, cut, undercut. I mean, that's just that to me, that's wrong. You need to get that.
Well, the only thing I guess I would say in defense of that, Matt, and is some of the screens that Joker sets are pretty rough, are pretty hard. And I think they finally called one on him. On a legal screen, but let's face it, illegal screens, Matt, are like holding in the NFL. They're all the time. I mean, you're supposed to be set. Guys are moving all the time. They're hard. Guys fall down to try to get the foul. I mean, you imagine running into Jokic, Matt. Imagine running into that dude. You're probably gonna fall or get the wind knocked out of you, or just something's gonna happen. And there was really no free throw discrepancy in game 3, Matt. Actually, the Nuggets had 21 free throw attempts and the Phoenix Suns had 18. Yeah. Kevin Durant had 16 of those 18. And like I said, Devin Booker had the last two in the last 2 minutes of that game when they were intentionally fouling him. So the free throw discrepancy, it was 21-18, pretty fair, pretty even, I would guess. But you could not touch Kevin Durant. That's the only thing I would guess. I guess I would say about that. But yeah, I mean, setting screens, I mean, it's in every game. It's just when the refs want to call it. And like you mentioned, I don't know if it was Steve Jabian, I think it was the Philadelphia and Boston game was, they call a flagrant or they call a hard ball foul. I've never heard that term before until these playoffs. They call that so they can get a review. I don't know if it was Steve Jabby who said that. They call a flagrant one. Mm-hmm. Hard ball foul so they can get a review. But so if it was just a normal foul, they can't get a review? Is that the coaches can't challenge a regular common foul, but then they challenge a Devin Booker call? That was a common foul. I don't know where I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, it goes into where you have it's like the NFL, like all scoring plays are reviewed. So it's better if you just say it was a touchdown, so they'll go review it and overturn it. It's kind of like that situation in a sense, to where let's just call it this foul so we can come in and look at it and make sure it is or it isn't. It's one of those deals. It's one of those situations that they give officials that just call the foul, and then we can always go and look at it. Kind of one of those situations, especially with the NBA. They're doing that a lot more now. But then again, like you said, like you mentioned, it's like, well, if we're what's a hard ball foul and what's not a hard ball foul? Do we have a black and white, template of what's what, or are we just going to start and coming here and saying that was this, that was that wasn't? I mean, there's no definite like this is what it is and this is what it isn't. So I think that's what a lot of times fans get in trouble with, because they don't know what's going on. They don't know exactly of what the explanation is. And the NBA and these officials have done a decent job in coming in and saying, hey, especially after the explanation, this is what it was, and we revered it because of this, blah, 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 and then they move on. But it's the mindset of, we got to control this game, so we're going to blow the whistle. We got to control this game, so we're going to hit him with a technical foul right here. We got to control this game, so we're going to hit him with the flagrant 2, and he's out of the game because we don't want any more of that in the game. That's what is really, in my opinion, screwing up these playoffs. And you're getting guys like us, coming in here like not understanding what's a foul, what's not a foul. Why are we calling this here? Why are we calling that there? But it's all through the NBA. It's not just one team. Even though the Lakers, they will shoot more free throws than anybody because they whine the most. But that's just from a salty Nuggets fan. But it is what it is when it comes to there. But the officials have really, I'm not going to say changed, but they're controlling some of these series. You can tell that there's a little bit more of a twist here and a pull off here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it just seems different. And like Keith said, can we just get back to 90s basketball, please?
Oh.
And I'm a Lakers fan. And usually I want to say that in recent years, Matt, the refs have been doing a good job of swallowing the whistle in the playoffs. They let them get physical, unless it's absolutely blatant and obvious, like nut punches. You're not going to call it. I mean, gotta go hard in the paint like we're doing this morning. I mean, it's whatever. You drive it hard, whatever. I mean, Embiid's over there stomping on fools' heads. It's just crazy. I mean, we'll get into that here in a second because a lot of people have mixed thoughts about that. But I mean, I want to say some of it's good, some of it's just obviously bad. And like he said, also, he said only the Nuggets aren't getting calls. I'm not saying that, but I mean, when Kevin Durant drives to the basket every single time, and there's just a whistle, like dudes aren't even touching him. And I think it was Steve Jabby or someone there was an Aaron Gordon call, Matt, where he literally, there was a foot in between him and maybe it was Durant. And again, sounding like a Homer Nuggets fan, obviously. Look at what I'm wearing. He literally had a foot in between him and the guy driving. And of course the guy falls down, whistle. I mean, that is the definition of a beneficiary home team call. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I'm sure the Nuggets have gotten those same calls at home, but I'm just going back to recent memory because the game Friday is the only thing I can remember right now. So, the Warriors Lakers game, obviously fresh on the mind as well. So again, I'm sure the Nuggets get those calls, but some of these blatant not touching guys, I mean, it's crazy. And in the playoffs, especially those kind of drives and those kind of, and some of guys go hard in the paint, Matt, they literally get hit and no call sometimes. So I guess we're just asking for consistency, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's consistency. It's game flow. It's understanding what type of moment is there. Like I go back to game 2 when it was here with the Nuggets and the Suns. I felt like that was a physical as hell. That was a physical game. And I didn't think that the Nuggets were getting a bad whistle. I didn't think that the Suns were getting a bad whistle. They were letting them play. That was playoff basketball because you knew that you can come down and bang on a guy down here and it wasn't going to get a foul. And you knew that guy was going to come down on the other end and do the same thing and you weren't going to get a foul. When you get that situation, what you had in Phoenix with Kevin Durant, you can't play defense that way. You're taught to get out there, move your feet, get your hands out wide and get your hands up. And when you're doing that and the guy just brushes by you and he gets knocked off balance, because a lot of times what I see is if referees will bail out big players, will bail out, superstars, because they want to see that superstar at the free throw. There is something to that. There is something, and it goes all the way to the high school level. I was talking to high school officials that were talking about, really good players in the state. Hey, that kid's really good. That kid's really good. We got to help him out. We got to protect him. That kid's really good. Blah, 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 blah. And then I've also heard too from officials talking about Nikola Jokic, where he's hard to defend. So they give the nod to the defenders because Nikola Jokic is so hard to defend because of everything that he does. But you're telling me that Shaquille O'Neal wasn't hard to defend, and that dude, I'm not going to say he shot a lot of free throws, but that dude didn't get. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal's a bad example because that guy's just a freaking monster. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then my wife coming in the other day watching the game, and she sees Joker's arms are all cut up and tore up, and she's like, God, how come that guy doesn't shoot free throws all the time? And that's just an opinion of somebody that hardly watches games. So it is definitely different for different superstars. And I would love to see a 90s style playoff basketball from here on out. I would love it. I don't know how it would end up, but I would absolutely love it.
Yeah. And, there's some plays, going down the court, like you said, official banging into guys, guys falling down, balls going up, just missing everything and no call. And then literally on the next series down, nothing. Guy goes up, like you said, brushes by, he falls down, whistle. It's just, if you're going to call a foul, at least call it where it kind of looks obvious, and camera angles and stuff like that might show a different story. And I'm sure the refs go back and review what they do wrong and stuff like that, because we've seen like calls come out, or I don't know where the information gets leaked to, but say, that should have been a call, or this should have been a call. And maybe that's more the NFL, but some of these calls change, like you mentioned, change momentum, change the way a team is playing. And for both teams, and this is throughout, all sports, basically, you have to adjust to the way the game is being called. But at the same time, if you're going down, like, running into a guy and everyone's falling, balls flying everywhere and nothing is called, and the next series down, you do the same thing and something is called. I mean, it's kind of hard to adjust when you don't know, like Draymond Green said, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to play it when there's such inconsistency. And I think that's where everyone's getting frustrated.
100%. 100%. That's what the biggest problem is, because it seems like it changes from possession to possession, not only game to game, possession to possession. And I go back to that Devin Booker and Jamal Murray call where they reviewed it and they still called the block on Jamal Murray. And 9 out of 10 times, because that was the one time where they don't call it, they call an offensive foul. But because of that situation, and you even mentioned like the timing of it. So if they blow the foul there and they give it to Devin Booker, and like you said, I mean, it's a great scenario to compare, because you look at when the foul happened later, they called the foul, give him his 5th foul. Well, why not just give him his foul there on that call that they overturned and gave it to Booker, or they gave it to Murray instead? That one was more egregious and it looked like more of an offensive foul. Why didn't you give it there? Well, I believe that was like 8 minutes left in that 4th quarter, I want to say, or something like that. And it was around that time. If you hit him with this 5th foul there, that puts him into a position to where he's not as aggressive. He's not doing the Devin Booker things because he pulls back. When they hit him with that foul later, it was like 2-3 minutes gone by. Now we're looking at the game's almost over. Now we're looking at, and then they look at the score situation. This stuff happens a lot where they look at, okay, now I can hit him with this 5th foul because it's not going to affect the game. And you're probably thinking like, well, that doesn't make any sense, Matt. Well, it does. It makes perfect sense because of the moments of the games. If Michael Porter Jr. hits a wide open 3, like there's like 4 minutes left there, 3 or 4 minutes left to get the game tied or get within 2 or 3 points, that changes the way that they play on the other end. And if you hit Booker with his 5th foul there with 8 minutes left to go, that's going to change the game on the other end. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And like you said, that when you sit down and they do look at calls, they go look back and they write things down. We got to get that next time. We got to get this foul. We got to stop calling that. That's not a foul. Or when this guy's doing this, we got to make sure to get him off of his back because Chris Paul, he's not in the game, but he used to like to push people. Devin Booker pushes people and when they're getting rebounds. They got to get that stuff. So I'm curious to see in how this game goes tonight. I don't know if you're going to see as much foul. I think you're going to see more of a game 2 situation where they're letting it go a lot, but it's just I want a good flow. And I always want a good flow to the game. If you're calling it here, call it there too. But let's have a good flow.
Yeah. And the reason we brought this up as a topic this morning is just, and it's dating back even to the first round of these playoffs, and obviously we watch every Nuggets game. The Minnesota and Nuggets series was absolutely terrible when it came to whistles on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It was so horrible calls against the Nuggets, horrible calls against the Timberwolves, and this series. So, and the Lakers series, and the Philadelphia series, and all these series and also too all over social media. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter, Matt. I forgot who did it, but it was a referee shirt, being hung up, and it said the new Suns jerseys look dope for tonight.
Yeah.
And it was a referee shirt hanging. So, I mean, everyone sees it and everyone's commenting on it, and it's hard for players and coaches after the game to comment on it because they're afraid of getting fined. So, it is what it is. Steph Curry was really the only one who kind of shied away from answering those questions. I'm honestly surprised Draymond didn't get thrown out of yesterday's game. And he was even asked, like, how much leeway do the refs? And I will give the referees this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it. They do give these guys a lot of leeway to talk to them now. Even in the hard pounding 90s, even early 2000s, you go up and scream your head off at an official, you're out. But nowadays, for as quick as they blow the whistle on everything, they do give these guys a lot of leash to basically scream in their face, because I don't know how Draymond was not thrown out yesterday. And he was just going off on him. He's talking to him on the way to the bench. He's screaming at him from the bench. 10 years ago, Matt, you're out of the game.
Right. And I mean, if you get remember Joe Crawford, the bald guy?
Oh yeah. He had the shortest leash I've ever seen. Short
fuse. And I guess there's not really those guys anymore. There's one guy that I'm thinking of that his name is skipping is right on the tip of my tongue, that is kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, there's and you got to look at the refs too. And we're not just, beating up on the officials. We understand that being an official is very hard. I was an official for over 20 years and I understand how hard, but I also understand how to work a good game, how to keep a good game flow. And the one thing in the professional leagues, and I'm not just talking about the NBA, but overall professional leagues, is you got to understand that these guys, not only are they the best at what they do, but they're the best at getting away with things. And they're going to bitch, complain, cry over every little call, and they're going to want every little thing. So you got to put that into the referee mindset as well, that they have to deal with all that too. They have to deal with these guys whining and you think an adult men's rec league game is bad. Just turn it up, turn it up to 100, and that's what you get. And there are lines. There are things that if you say to a ref that will get you a T. Some of these guys know exactly what it is, and they'll go right there. Some of them will dance around it. You saw Payne the other day say, I didn't foul him. I put that on my mama. We don't care. We don't care if you put it on we don't care who you put it on, dude. You fouled him. So yeah, that aspect of the officiating, the whining and the crying, and especially in the NBA, because that's what we're talking about now, is pretty out of hand.
And I kind of like put it on my mom. Should have put it on one of your 6 foreheads. It was funny you brought out Landau, and I think that's how you say his name, the guy who came in for DeAndre Ayton. And DeAndre Ayton has caught a lot of slack. He was getting booed, Matt, by the home team. And I think it was either game 1 or game 2 where everyone's just hounding this guy for, I think Joker had like 6 tips, offensive rebounds. None of them went in. And you saw DeAndre Ayton literally standing on the baseline out of bounds.
Right.
And I don't know if this was just made up or whatever, but someone said he said that, well, what am I supposed to do on that play? Yep. You go box him out. You go jump for the ball. Like, there's literally many things you could do on that play.
to
You
try.
get involved.
I mean, literally, you just jump. I mean, you go on the other side of the rim or just jump with them.
Yeah.
Like either way, you're going to alter a shot just by your height and jumping. Someone sees you come flying in, Matt, they're going to alter their shot. Or, if they're maybe LeBron or something like that, you go hard in with them. I don't know.
Mhm.
But 9 times out of 10, you see a 7-foot dude flying towards you, you're going to alter your shot. And I'm not saying that Joker was in a position to alter 6 tips, but I'm saying there's multiple things that Ayton could have done. But Landau came out yesterday and said, he's sick of and I'm obviously paraphrasing, he's sick of the crap that DeAndre Ayton is getting. He's an awesome teammate. He's the first one, up and clapping on the bench, which that was basically the only thing I call BS on, because during a timeout, they showed Ayton and he was literally just standing there like
Right.
dazed and confused. Like, why is this happening to me? And I don't know if you saw the replay, Matt, but they called a timeout. Chris Paul went up to him twice, and DeAndre Ayton just ghosted him, just walked right by him. He tried to give him a handshake. He tried to talk to him, and Ayton wanted no part of CP3. So
Yep.
I don't. And honestly, Landau came in and like you said, he's out there to basically just do whatever you can to stop Jokic. That's what he's in there for. And
Literally do whatever you can, because that guy was mauling Nikola Jokic, and if they try to go that route again, that dude's going to be fouled out. It doesn't matter if they call every single foul or every now and then foul. That guy's going to be fouled out by halftime if they try to put him on Nikola Jokic tonight. That's just that the way that guy plays is not conducive to guarding Nikola Jokic or this Nuggets offense. So I was shocked that they went over that, but that's a big testament to where they view DeAndre Ayton. And they were going to let him go to Indiana. Remember that. They were going to let him go to Indiana. They finally paid him and all that stuff, and there's even trade rumors now. But yeah, that he's not, body language is everything. And I always, tell my kids that you can control that. You can control your attitude, you can control your effort. And with him doing the body language and being upset and what, because that could have been like a learning experience. Monty Williams could have been saying, hey, sit your butt on the bench. We're going with this guy. And that could be a learning experience for Ayton. And you can take it one or two ways. That whole, spiel, you could do it. You could take it this way, or you could take it this way. And he took it a different way by throwing a fit and not really being a part of the team. And I think he even left the building before the game started or stopped or was over. I don't know. There was something that like at the end, he just got out of there quick. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. But if they put Landau in there, I don't see him making it through the freaking first half without being in foul trouble.
Yeah, he left before the locker room was open for media availability. But I kind of like what Landau said, and I had no idea he was Australian or he has some kind of good day mate accent. But he even said, like, this is not easy. Like, we're going up against a 2-time MVP. He said this crap ain't easy. Like,
yeah,
it's but to sit there and say, what am I supposed to do on that play? That's, like you said, body language, the things you say, like that's, I mean, and obviously I think Steve Kerr said it best, like everything gets magnified in the playoffs. You do that in a regular season game, whatever. In the playoffs, Matt, where LeBron James is sprinting half court at 30, whatever, how old he is, 20 years in the league, and I'm not a LeBron fan, and he tips a ball out of bounds just so a guy doesn't get a pass, Matt. Yep. He tips the ball out of bounds and goes running up into all the way up the concourse. When you see that, Matt, and you're standing there literally watching Jokic get 6 offensive rebound tips, you're not cut out for this. Like and maybe Landau was saying, it's hard to stop a 2-time MVP, whatever. I get that. Jokic is dang near unguardable at this point. But to sit there and say on a play, I don't know what I'm supposed to do on that play. Even if you go foul him, Matt,
get in there and get involved. Yes, just get involved.
And yeah, it's just crazy. And I don't know if you've seen that interview with him, but I actually like what Landau said. And I was gonna toss this out to you, Matt. Is there any scenario, because of, like you mentioned, Landau could foul out? Is there any scenario where he starts Game 4 tonight? And if he does get in foul trouble, you always can bring Ayton off the bench, because
Right.
Ayton's really hasn't been in foul trouble. I think the highest he's gotten is 4, but he's really hasn't been in foul trouble this series yet.
And that's funny you say that. Like, he's never been in foul trouble. When you look at the first series, that the guys that had to guard Nikola were either fouled out or almost going to foul out. And you can tell the guy's not working his butt off, because he should have more fouls than that. Look at Aaron Gordon working his ass off, and he averages 4 or 5 fouls in that first series. And then this series, I don't know exactly, but you could tell a guy's working his ass
3 in
off.
the first half.
And
Yeah.
Ayton barely has 4 fouls and can't even. That's very, very, very telling when you look at it that way. But if they do start Landau, I could see that happening, because you still got what's Oak, I can't say his name right. I got to look at it again to see his, but you have options. Are they good options? Are they the best options? I don't know, maybe not, but you still have options there. If you're the Phoenix Suns, outside of, DeAndre Ayton, you can bring in Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo can still get in there and be a body, right? I think they tried to put him in there in the first couple games, and he wasn't really good. But now you don't have an option. You don't have another option, so you might have to run Biyombo at him. I don't think you're going to throw Craig at him. I don't think you're going to do anything like that. But it's going to be a steady diet of Landau and Ayton. If he doesn't, I don't know. I haven't heard anything coming out of there if he's going to start, because that would be something that's interesting, because Monty Williams put Payne in there because he had to, because of Chris Paul. But you got a Kogi who started. You've seen Ross come in there and get some minutes. He only got 5 points. See, that's another thing too, Mike, with this series, is that the bench, you're looking at throwing these guys in there for defensive purposes. But who's going to score? Nobody's scoring.
Well,
I don't know if Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, even if they score 80 again, is that going to be enough?
I don't. Well, and before Game 3, because if you're crazy if you thought this was going to be a sweep. Let me get that out there first.
Right. I agree there 100%.
You're not sweeping the Phoenix Suns with with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But
No.
on that same hand, Matt, it's a double-edged sword saying that, because going into this game, everybody was like, Phoenix has no depth. They traded away their bench to get Durant. Booker and Durant need to score 90 plus to win this game, and they damn near did, Matt. They scored 86 combined points.
Yep.
I don't know if that was an anomaly or a fluke or whatever you want to call it. And I even said, Booker's not going to shoot 80% again, but Durant's not going to shoot 30% again.
Right.
So I think that's going to come back down. Minnesota got a win at home against this team. I mean, the home team, you went back to Phoenix. The experts picked them as the favorites out of the West, and I don't know. You're crazy. You're ludicrous. You're whatever if you thought this was going to be a sweep, Matt, even with only 2 guys scoring the ball, because you thought, you didn't know Chris Paul was going to get hurt. You didn't know that DeAndre Ayton was going to be Charmin soft in this series. You weren't expecting all this, and I don't think, while on the same token, I don't think that's a recipe for success for 2 guys to score 86 points. And you're expecting to win every game. Obviously, adjustments are going to be made. I don't know why they weren't putting more guys on one or the other, Matt. And I know Durant shot terribly. He's not going to shoot that terrible again. When Booker's at 30 points, Matt, even when you get to 30, why isn't there constantly 2 guys on him?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think Jamal even said that, or Michael Malone even said that. Somebody said that. I feel like it was Jamal, that they need to guard Booker more. And I think that the defense that they're playing on Kevin Durant, whether it's Christian Brown, whether it's Bruce Brown, whether it's Aaron Gordon, that has a lot to do with his lack of making those shots. Those are some good contested shots from Aaron Gordon or Christian Brown, whoever is guarding him at the time. And what they're doing too with the Nuggets is they're making Kevin Durant play a lot more defense. Kevin Durant usually doesn't I'm not going to say he doesn't play defense, but he doesn't get fully engaged on that end. There's a lot of resting over there on that end. He can't rest with this Denver Nuggets team and because they're using him a lot of time as the 5 when Ayton goes out. Now that they have Landale in, that might change a little bit, but that's what they were doing. So that could be an issue for Kevin Durant. And the thing that I noticed that like you said, that if you thought that the Nuggets were going to sweep this team, that's just crazy. Cause I thought this series was going to go 7. And it's going the way that I thought it was going to go. I thought the Nuggets were going to get the first 2 in Denver. Then I thought Phoenix was going to go back, win those 2 in Phoenix, and it was just going to go bing, bing, bang, boom. And if somebody stole one on the home court, then that would flip everything. I felt like that's the way this series was going to go. It still could. Do I feel like the probable to go that way? No, I still think like the Nuggets can get a win tonight because, like you said, I don't think all that's going to happen again. And especially with the Nuggets, I don't think Jamal Murray's going to go stone cold or go into I don't know if you want to call him. I don't think you call him bubble ball. I think you call him ball hog Murray. Those last 5 minutes where he was coming down, and you should get Nikola Jokic a handle, a touch in some of those situations. So I don't think we're going to see that again. I don't think Aaron Gordon's going to not score that much. But the fact that you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on your team is at least good. I would give the Suns one more win out of this because I think they can do it one more time. I think that those guys can do what they did one more time. I don't know if it's going to be tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if Phoenix came back and they won a game in Denver. That's just kind of how I feel like this series. And you cannot look away with what Devin Booker and Kevin Durant can do. You can't do that. But like I agree. Is Kevin Durant going to shoot as bad? Is Devin Booker going to shoot as good? Probably not. But I still think they can do those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said, Booker's going to get his and Durant, and if you shut him down, one of these 2 guys are going to get theirs, and they both did in Game 3. Well, 47 and 39 is pretty telling when the next guy is 7. And Keith commented, if a 38-year-old Chris Paul makes a difference in getting a win against the Suns, the Nuggets are in trouble.
Well, he's hurt, so we don't have to worry about him.
But I mean, campaign, you had to throw him in there, but he was not handling the ball as much as Devin Booker was. Even with 47 points, Matt, Devin Booker's a true number 2, a true shooting guard, but he's handling the ball 90% of the time if Chris Paul is not there. Even he's going to be dribbling the ball down court. He's going to be the point guard when Chris Paul isn't there. And I'm not trying to give this much credit to Chris Paul, but he is a good game manager. We'll say that. And when he went out in Game 2 of in this series, Matt, that's when the game totally flipped. Mm-hmm. The Suns didn't know what to do. And maybe that's just because they couldn't adjust on the fly. And, they had 3 days, Matt, to install this game plan without him. So you have to look at that time too. So,
and I even look at like Chris Paul. I'm not saying he wasn't really contributing. Yeah. When he went out, he was starting to get a little rhythm at that little mid range, that little free throw net at the free throw line jump shot. He dribble in off a pick and roll and stuff like. He was starting to do that, but I didn't. It was only a matter of time that he was going to get hurt. That's kind of what I felt like with Chris Paul and what a lot of people feel like with Chris Paul. And Cameron Payne just doesn't like. Chris Paul started everything and got it going, but with this offense, it's like you got to get it into Devin Booker couldn't miss a shot, man. Like it's hard to look at this offense and say that they were better without Chris Paul, even as I saw people saying that. And I don't think this was a necessity. This is out of what they had to do to be good. Devin Booker had to come down and shoot the ball and Kevin Durant has to get to the rack. So I felt like it was just one of those things, but the series definitely did. It's different now for the Suns, but as you can see, you can't look at it and say that Chris Paul being out is necessarily bad for the Suns because they just got a big win. So there's gives and takes for definitely with Chris Paul being out.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned too DeAndre Ayton. Their offense honestly ran better without him in the game. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can make that argument as well. So I don't know. it's just I don't know. I don't want to say Chris Paul makes a huge difference, but he makes a little difference the way that offense operates. And when he goes down, like I said, you have 3 days to make adjustments, man. 3 days to install a game plan without him. And I don't know if necessarily the Nuggets were ready for that game plan, but they had 3 days to prepare as well. And you heard Bruce Brown say I'm preparing. I'll believe it when I see it that he's not in the lineup. So the Nuggets players give him respect to a degree, but at the same time, like you mentioned, he was getting into a rhythm. He's going to get you at least, between 10 and 14 points a game. Maybe that's what he would give you. And that, in some of these games that could be a difference in the final outcome. So I'm not trying to say the series hinges on Chris Paul. I don't think it does at all when you have a guy like Devin Booker who only missed 5 shots the entire game on Friday, 20 for 25. He like you said, he couldn't miss, and it was just crazy to see that. So if he shoots 80% again, that's when the Nuggets are in trouble. If he shoots 80% again, but you cannot let KD, on the other hand, go off for 39.
Right, 100%. And I think I like what they're doing, and they are. I feel like they've made a choice, and they're gonna let Devin do what he does, but they got to get to KD. They got to do whatever they can to not let KD get off, and because it can't be. That's one of the things. This is why the national people thought that Phoenix was the favorite, because they figured, well, if Devin Booker's not going to go off, then KD is going to go off. Then if KD goes off and Devin Booker just gets what he usually gets, then it's still going to be. That's what they were trying to play off of. And in this series, I think Kevin Durant is playing a hell of a lot more defense than he would like, and that is going to hinder his offense. I know he scored all those points, but majority of it was from the free throw line. So it's like you can't totally stop these guys, especially Kevin Durant, but you want to slow them down. And they're the only ones, like we said it over and over again, they're the only ones that can beat you on this team. Does anybody think Campaign's going to beat him? Does anybody think Ross is going to beat him? Craig is going to come in and score 20, 30 points. Does anybody else think any of those players are going to do that? Because I don't think so. So you got to make sure. And it's almost like, do you shut those guys down? Just truly send double teams, triple teams at them, and let these other guys shoot wide open shots? Is that kind of what's next?
You have to, but remember too, and I like what you said about making Durant play defense, because I think it has affected his offense. He's not shooting really well in this series, and he's shot I think it was 33%, Matt, on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we normally see from quote an overrated KD from Keith on the comment line there. Only got his championships because he played with the Warriors. True, obviously.
That's true. Yeah, he hasn't
and
done anything since.
Keith, think of it this way: if the Nuggets beat the Suns in this series, he may come to Denver. He's never know.
Be in Denver next year. That's right.
I don't know. Did you see Kevin Durant, by the way? He's in Call of Duty now. Did you see?
That's pretty cool.
Did you see that? And it was funny because I don't know where I saw this or heard this. It said, someone asked, like, how do you get the KD character? And he said, oh, his team lost in Battle Royale, so he goes to your team if you beat him. So that's how you unlock that's how you unlock the Kevin Durant.
That's how you unlock him.
That's how you unlock him in Call of Duty, apparently. I haven't played in a while, so maybe I'll try that. But yeah, I don't necessarily think. Do you think KD's overrated?
As a championship player, as somebody that comes in and makes your team a championship contender, overrated, no. But as somebody that could come in and make your team a championship contender, yes. Meaning he has to have somebody else with him.
But I'll throw this out there. Isn't that the case for almost? You have to have at least 2 guys.
It used to be, I felt like, but nowadays, if you get the right guy, because then we have to start looking at because James Harden used to be that guy. He used to be one of those guys. I know he hasn't really won anything, but he used to be one of those guys. And LeBron's one of those guys. Devin Booker's looking to be one of those guys. Anthony Edwards being one of those guys. But because he hasn't done it by himself, he hasn't went and like, this is our missing piece. This is our guy. And Kevin Durant's here. This is our guy. The Warriors won without him, and when you look at Brooklyn, the time in Brooklyn, a lot of people were saying, I can't remember his name. One of the players that were saying they were playing that Brooklyn series. I think it was a Milwaukee player. And they said if Kyrie didn't get hurt, that they were thinking they were going to lose that series. So you look at that and you can look at Kyrie and then a lot of people say, Kevin Durant stepped on the line there on that 3-point. So, but no, I don't think he's overrated as an overall player. I think he's one of the best players in the world. But as far as if you're going to say that guy's going to get me a championship, then I think he's overrated in that sense, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not going to be the guy on a team, which, they got close in Oklahoma City. They made it to the finals and they obviously lost to LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and all those guys. I mean, you can almost can you say the same about LeBron though? Because he's maybe for the exception in Cleveland, but he had some decent players in Cleveland, and I'm not going to say they're top, I don't Kevin Love and Kyrie aren't really world beaters, but they're nice pieces. So maybe the Cleveland is the exception. You go to LA, you win in the bubble. I know everyone's there's always going to be an asterisk by the bubble. Lakers. There's always going to be an asterisk by the bubble. But you pair him up with AD, and if AD is the guy that he was last night, they're hard to beat. When D'Angelo Russell goes off and scores 11 of your first 11 points, they're going to be hard to beat. I don't know. That's a good discussion, and maybe we'll lock that in for maybe next week. But he said, "Where do you rank KD all time?" I have a hard time putting him in the top 100.
Yeesh.
That's a little high. I've never made a top
me neither
100 list. I have my maybe top 5. KD is definitely not in my top 5.
No,
maybe he's in, and I haven't gone this far. Maybe he's in the top 15, 20, but he's somewhere up there.
For me, he's somewhere up there. He's somewhere up there. He's got a championship. He's however you want to look at it, but for me, he's somewhere up there too. Like I would say, at the very least, he's top 50 for me. But I would have, if I really looked at it and really started writing it down, he might even move up a little bit higher. But I don't think he's in the top 10. Maybe top 15, but I don't know. But top 20, maybe. That's something that we could talk about for sure. But he's not up there. No.
Okay, and a few more basketball points here before we move on really quick. I think it was Brian Windhorst on ESPN saying, starting to compare, if the Warriors get one more championship, where do you put Steph Curry? If the Lakers win the championship, where obviously LeBron moves up into another tier, that 6+ championships, which only a few people have. But, he made the argument that Steph Curry is not LeBron James. Obviously, they play way different styles of basketball. But he said that Steph has always had better teams. Maybe the Kevin Durant era, you had a better team, and it was Lakers or it was Cavaliers Warriors for 4 straight years in the finals or whatever it was. 3.
Yep.
I guess you can make the argument when you have KD, Steph, and Clay. Everyone's like the big 3 of the Warriors is Steph, Clay, and Draymond. I don't consider Draymond a big 3. His defense is, people consider him one of the greatest defenders of all time, Matt. I've heard that before. But they were more a big 3 when KD was there than they are with Draymond there.
I agree, and he had Iguodala there too. I mean, because I know he's not as relevant anymore because doesn't really play, but I don't consider Draymond, and like, because they won the ship before KD even got there.
That's what I mean. I don't necessarily agree that Steph had better teams.
I don't.
And to his
'Cause,
credit,
I mean,
he's
Clay. Well, it's like LeBron's time in Cleveland, in my opinion, makes up for all the going to Miami crap, going to the Lakers crap. To me, it makes up for that because he did for a time there. He did hold court in Cleveland. He did. And so without as good a player, so I mean, but when you take what Steph has done, he hasn't left. He has, outside of Kevin Durant, he hasn't. It's a good argument. I don't think it's a good discussion, I should say. I don't know if it's if I wouldn't replace LeBron, because I know Stephen A said that he was looking at taking Steph Curry or LeBron off of his Mount Rushmore and putting Steph up there. For me, that'd be really tough. Steph has to do a lot more and play for a little bit longer. Because out of all the hate and stuff I give for LeBron James, I can't deny that I've said this before, if he didn't pull the Lakers and the Miami stuff and he did everything in Cleveland, you could look at him as being number one. You could. But without that and stuff, so yeah, that's a good but I think if Steph has to win a couple more.
I was going to say, what if Steph wins this year with this team?
That would be impressive,
because you don't have a presence of AD in the middle.
No,
you don't. I mean, you can consider Draymond a lockdown defender. I don't know if you can nowadays. And again, I'm not watching every Warriors game during the regular season. We're just watching, again, everything's magnified in the playoffs. But if Steph gets a championship with this team, is it arguable? Or, I mean,
you definitely have the conversation. I feel like you definitely have a conversation.
I still don't put him in the Mount Rushmore, but
I don't either.
Maybe you start a fifth guy up. You start carving a fifth guy into the mountain. No.
Yeah. I can do that five. Because you can't take Jordan out. Five. You can't. I mean, it depends on who's in your Mount Rushmore too. And for me, it's Jordan, Bird, Magic, and one of the either Kareem or Shaq maybe, or I mean I might be missing another big center, but those are my big three, I guess. I don't know. That's tough, man. I just can't. That's tough. That's a tough convo, man.
It is, and we might have to table it for another day as we get deeper into these playoffs. And really quick, I keep saying really quick, we might not get to the NHL, or let me just throw this out there before we move on here, Matt. The Rockies are not in last place anymore.
Yay! And
I'm just going to
aren't the Cardinals in last place though too?
The Cardinals are worse than the Rockies.
Yes,
and
suck on that, Nolan.
And a lot of people are like, why do you hate Nolan? It was a lot of Nolan to get him out of here. It wasn't just the Rockies being stupid like they normally are. Nolan played a big part.
Yep.
In
he wanted out
in getting out of here. So the Rockies are 13-21, Matt. Worse than them, almost. The Washington Nationals are 13-20. St. Louis, Matt, 10-24.
Oh,
that is. I mean, the Kansas City Royals 8-26.
Ooh,
the Oakland A's 8-26. So there are three teams right now that are worse than the Colorado Rockies. The Oakland A's, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. They only had 2,200 people at one of their games, Matt. You can go to an Oakland A's, soon to be Las Vegas, whatever they name themselves. Yeah. You can go to 37 games if you want to right now, Matt, for only $99. That's that's the deal they got going on, just to get people to the games with what did I say that was in their broadcasting booth? A possum. So
a possum.
We got possum. You can get there. It's possum giveaway day. If you buy these packs, you walk out with a possum.
I don't know what Brad Pitt's doing over there, but he's got to. I mean, we got to do something. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, I think Jonah Hill, Brad Pitt. They need to.
Yeah.
They need to really, really look at their upper management.
Hey, real quick question, because I saw this last week. I don't know if you noticed that Carmelo Anthony was getting a lot of heat last week from Nuggets fans, just because he was there at the New York Knicks game.
Oh,
but we could table this for some other time, from another discussion. But I just popped in my head: who's worse, Nolan Arenado or Carmelo Anthony? for what they did
man.
and how they wanted to get out of here.
I would say Nolan, honestly. And I know he, even with leaving in the way, I think it's overshadowed the way he left. Yeah, he signed a huge deal and just got out. I mean,
And the team wasn't in a better position when they left.
Yeah,
either.
and again, it wasn't just him.
Right.
It was both sides, but a lot of people are only blaming the Rockies front office. And again, it was you had to, I guess you had to do something, Matt. They got something back for him. But they also paid St. Louis, was it $5 million to take him or whatever that was?
Yeah.
It was dumb all around. But I still put a lot of blame on Nolan. I don't know if it's 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever the percentages is. I want to say he stabbed the Rockies in the back. He stabbed Rockies fans in the back, signing that big deal. And I know his excuse is, you said you were going to make some moves and you didn't. Again, I don't know what moves they made that season. Obviously, it wasn't much. Otherwise, we'd remember what it was.
Exactly.
But it was both sides, and I think Nolan does not get enough credit for wanting out of here. Carmelo, he was at the end of his deal.
Yep.
He gave the Nuggets notice. They got a pretty good haul back for him. They got some decent players for him, and they went on to do just fine. Knicks really didn't do that well.
Nope.
So, the Nuggets got Gallo, who was here for what, 6-8 years? He was here for a while.
Yeah, he was a big part of this team. Yeah.
Made the playoffs a handful of times. Got Wilson Chandler in that trade. Who else?
They had the best
Felton.
record.
Was Raymond
Nuggets'
Felton
best record at like a couple years after that.
Raymond Felton was in that trade.
Yep.
And I think the only thing that Nuggets fans, Denver fans, whatever, were pissed at is that Chauncey had to go with him. As part of that trade. I think that's what the kicker was. But I mean, who cares if he's at a Knicks game? He lives in New York. Like, what do you?
That's what I'm saysaying, man. But
he's friends with a lot. Yeah.
You had all these free, and the way I look at it is, I think these guys were a lot of young guys, and they were younger, and they were maybe in middle school, maybe just getting into high school when Carmelo was wanting to be traded, and they don't really understand what it was like to draft that guy and to go through that season, or that rookie season, to watch another 15 get overlooked because of another player. It was just that. And then we made the playoffs. The Nuggets made the playoffs every year in Carmelo's tenure, I want to say, every year. I could be wrong, but I feel like they were in the playoffs. Maybe they didn't make any noise, but they still were there. And before that, we had to deal with Skeetus Villy, Rafe LaFrance, all the Kiki Vanderway BS picks that he had in here. We had to deal with all of that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think Nolan's the worst.
Yeah. And
way worse.
They did make the playoffs every single year. The year they traded him, that I'm not sure about what they finished the year. And 2009 was obviously their best year with Carmelo, made it to the Western Conference Finals.
One of the greatest Nuggets seasons of all time.
And you had I still am pissed about this. You had Anthony Carter, the shortest guy on the team, try to throw an inbound pass over Lamar Odom. That's what you did. That's the coaching decision that you made.
They win that game, Mike.
Yeah, that
series is over.
Shift, yeah.
Because LA didn't want any part. They were done. That was the Kobe. And then we had the Orlando Magic just sitting there waiting to go get waiting for Western Conference team to go beat them.
Yeah, because you had it would have been what, 3-1, 3-2 if the Nuggets win that game.
Yeah, something like that. And then what's worse? Let's. I know we're going down rabbit holes. What's worse, Raheem the Dream play or AC's play?
I still got to go with. I want to say. I want to say AC because who knows? I mean, Nuggets haven't been to a championship series. So I want to say that's worse because, I mean, obviously hindsight, whatever, you never know what's going to happen if that doesn't happen. But I mean, I was at that Raheem the Dream Flacco thing, and it was not only the worst thing ever, but it was like negative 10 degrees out. That's what just made it literally sting even more. But I want to say AC because who knows what the Nuggets could have did that season.
Yeah.
It could have again, if could haves and maybes and all this is obviously behind us. But that Raheem the Dream is still to this day one of the most crushing blows. I mean, obviously it turned out well because that obviously the Broncos went to two Super Bowls after that and won one. So I think that kind of softens the blow. But
Yeah,
who knows what could have happened with that Nuggets team in that season?
That I think they would have. The way they were playing, the way that everything was, man, they were going to beat the Magic. And then and then you can look at the Broncos season that some people were saying, and I would tend to agree with them that was the best, maybe the best overall team, and that Peyton Manning and the Peyton Manning Broncos, that could have been the best overall team. I know we had a better defense in the 2015 season. We all know what happened in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. But a lot of people were saying that the way that team was constructed and playing, that if they could have won that Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, that was that, and that was because that was Peyton's first year in Denver.
And then he was that was the Star Wars offense numbers.
Well, I think it wasn't the next year the Star Wars.
It could have been the next year.
Yeah, it was the next year because that's when they ran into Seattle's defense in the.
Yeah, that's right.
Super Bowl, and then,
but I remember that defense, that Denver defense was pretty good. Obviously, outside of Raheem Morris, the Dream. Raheem the Dream. Remember when he would call it on Monday? Raheem the Dream.
Yeah. Dumb.
All right, let's move on.
All right. So really quickly here, NBA playoffs have been all the series now are 2-1. Every single series we have. Boston is up 2-1 against Philly, MVP, and the Nuggets obviously up 2-1 against Phoenix. Lakers up 2-1 against the Warriors. And how about these Florida teams, Matt? The Miami Heat are up 2-1. Jimmy Buckets comes back yesterday, dumps 28 on their heads, and series is in Miami now. So those guys are amped. And how about that, Matt? The Florida Panthers not only knock out the greatest regular season team of all time, Boston Bruins, but now they're up 2-0 against Toronto, and everyone's jumping on the Toronto bandwagon because they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. I hope everyone wants to see a Canada Stanley Cup Finals. You know what? Screw Canada. I hate Edmonton. I hate Toronto. I hate Dallas. I hate Vegas. I hate Seattle. And I want to see the Florida Panthers go all the way. Florida hasn't been in the Stanley Cup since they got swept by the Avs in '96. Right. So I kind of hope it's a Seattle. I hate Seattle, but I kind of hope it's a Seattle, Florida Stanley Cup. That would be crazy. And I kind of hope it's a Denver, Miami NBA Finals, which again, it's we're looking way too far ahead, but that's my hopes right now.
And it looks that way. I mean, I know Boston has, outside of that game one with when Harden went off, they've looked like the most complete team, like I guess the best playing basketball team over there in the East. But Miami, I think, is the hottest team, and they have the most momentum. And whenever Jimmy Buckets is on the floor, that guy, he's the MVP of the playoffs this season. If you ask me, I mean, the things that guy's doing and things that he's done and what he means to that team is just crazy. And then how they're beating these teams, what Adebayo's doing, and Love. See, I'm wondering, was Love available? How come the Nuggets always add a big man during the trade deadline, whether it's a buyout or a trade, and they always add somebody that, I mean, Kevin Love could be a big part of this rotation, helping out those non-Jokic minutes. But anyway, I think Miami's the hottest team right now in the playoffs, and then, or especially in the East. But I would love to see Miami make it out of there, because that would be because they made in the bubble, remember? And didn't they upset another seed too the following year? Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. That's number one. You got to look at Eric Spoelstra, what he's doing with there. But that team, man, it's you can't count them out. You cannot count them out.
I don't know if he's the best coach, but he's up there, and he's probably the most underrated.
That's what I meant. I guess I meant to say that he's probably the best coach nobody talks about.
Yeah.
You know,
And now, which is crazy because I don't know if you saw, obviously Mike Budenholzer gets out in
gets gone.
Milwaukee,
Yep.
and I think there was a lot more behind the scenes. I mean, he didn't even tell people that his brother died in a car accident during the
Yeah.
first round. That's got to be hard. You have Giannis, who clearly wasn't 100% after he
Right.
fell on his back, comes out, f's around and get a triple double in the closeout game. Even though he got a triple double, man, I still don't think he was even, probably wasn't even 90%. But you're gonna go in a
Right.
closeout game. You're gonna go, and a lot of interesting things now happening in Miami. There's a lot, or excuse me, in Milwaukee. There's a lot
Right.
of Giannis trade talks. Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez are free agents, so there's going to be a lot of shifting and moving. The reports came out that New York is monitoring the Giannis
Mhm.
situation. And I again, you said maybe LeBron would have, I guess, more, for lack of a better term, respect if he stayed in Cleveland and got all these championships. I mean, you got to give credit for Giannis. I think Giannis is a top 5, top 10 player. I wouldn't trade Jokic for Giannis, but I would take Giannis on my team 100% of the time.
Right.
And because he's one of the best two-way players in this league. At
And
least for a big
defensively,
man.
he's one of the best defenders
Yeah.
in the league too.
And he's a 2-time MVP. He stayed in Milwaukee through the lean years. I don't know if you saw his early days, Matt. It doesn't even look like Giannis in
No.
his early. I mean, same with Embiid. If you go back to look at him with Kansas, doesn't even look like the same guy. But Giannis, credit him for staying in Milwaukee. He had a chance to leave a couple years ago. A lot of people thought he was going to, stood it out. They didn't really. I mean, Drew Holiday's a nice piece, but they didn't bring in big names, Matt, and they won a championship in little old Milwaukee.
Right. And that's what, like, you look at Milwaukee, and it's very comparable to what's going on here in Denver and with those mid-market teams and stuff like that. That's why it's so important when you have that window open to capitalize on it as much as you can, whether that means bringing in superstars, trading away your guys to bring in superstars. Yeah. There's a lot of rumblings too. I was watching Windhorse talk about Milwaukee, like you just mentioned, that that they could be potentially without Giannis. Giannis could look to go somewhere else, because I think he's got like an option, a year option this year that he could sign it, but then if he doesn't, then it will make him a restricted free agent or something like that. But there's a lot of things going on with that Milwaukee Bucks that we got to watch on. And like you said, you'd love to have him part of this team. And I think if the Nuggets don't make it to the finals this year, then you can see. I think next year we'll see. There's a lot of players that you've seen in these playoffs, or even during the season, that are superstar players that might not be on their teams next year. And I think that if some things go a certain way, we could be looking at potentially the Nuggets going at one of those teams or one of those players.
Yeah, and now it's funny because since I think it was 2019. 2019 was the, oh man, who won the championship in 2019? Cleveland in 2019 won the championship. Ty Lue's not there anymore. He's now with the Clippers, but he's not there anymore. 2020, the bubble, Lakers won the championship. Frank Vogel's not there anymore. 2021, who won the championship in 2021?
The
Oh man,
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Mike Budenholzer, not there anymore. Last year, Warriors. Steve Kerr is the only coach in the last 4 years, Matt, that's won a championship and is still employed with their team. So
Yeah, and I was even hearing too, he might be out at the end of the year.
it could be something like that. Honestly, I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised the Warriors got past the Kings. When they went to a game 7, though, you got to go with championship pedigree, championship experience. That's what's carrying the Warriors as far as they are. Honestly, that might. I mean, Lakers, like I've mentioned multiple times, won the trade deadline, and they're built for the playoffs, as I mentioned multiple times as well. But they have a lot of experience as well. When LeBron doesn't score for the first quarter and a half, and you still win that game by 30.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It was highs and lows. At one point, Golden State had a 11-point lead, but when LeBron doesn't score the first quarter and you still win that game handily, that's depth. That's a pretty good team.
Yeah, And the Lakers are built very, very well, especially for a deep playoff run. And that's, I don't know who's going to win this series between the Lakers and Golden State. I gave the Lakers the advantage because of Anthony Davis, but it's hard to do that because we don't know because if you look at it now, then every other game Anthony Davis decides to play, that's the ones that they win. The ones that Anthony Davis doesn't decide to play, and that's why Anthony Davis, in my opinion, is one of those players that is weird because he could be on the floor and not have any influence or any impact on the game. But as you have a player like Nikola Jokic on the floor, he impacts the game whether he's on it or off of it. And Anthony Davis, if you're putting everything, because LeBron's not. Do we think that 38-year-old LeBron's going to go out and take over a game like he used to? I know he's done it, but can he do that through an entire playoff series and then win the series and then go get ready for the next? We all know that guy has to have surgery on his ankle. He's got to have this and that. So if Anthony Davis, I keep saying this over and over again, I feel like a freaking broken record, and I'm with everybody out there. That guy's good. He could be one of the best players in the world, but is he going to show up next game?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that every other day. How about this? Anthony Davis, this playoffs, in odd games, so games 1, 3, and 5, in these playoffs, almost 28 points a game, almost 17 rebounds a game on 57% shooting. Anthony Davis, this playoffs, both rounds that so far, in even games, so games 2, 4, and 6, he's averaging 13 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, and only 40% shooting. So like you said,
that's whack.
Is he just taking I don't think he's taking every other day off, but I think it's weird because obviously teams are preparing for him. You saw the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1 was a close game. Lakers pulled it out. Game 2, Golden State ran away with a 27-point lead. Game 3, Lakers ran away with a 30-point win. It's just weird. It's weird. Crazy. That's a crazy stat.
Does he remind you of? He reminds me of Nene because he could do the things. Nene can do some unbelievable things. It's just, when was he going to do them?
Never.
And when he did them, it was like, oh my God, this is the guy. That's the guy. But he never does. And he's a little bit more consistent than Nene, but he's still inconsistent. That's the thing that has me about the Lakers. I don't know if Anthony Davis is who that dude's going to be. And you get him in a series with the Nuggets, I feel like when I see those two, both of them sitting in the post game, looking all ridiculous in their dressed outfits, and I'm looking at him like, gosh darn it, man, the Nuggets are going to dog whip this team. And then Anthony Davis goes out and goes for 30 and 22 or something freaking crazy. So I don't know.
Yeah. And if you're Lakers, you hope Anthony Davis isn't like taking every other day. But again, in game 2, Matt, he missed. I mean, the ball just wasn't falling for him like it was yesterday. He had at least 4 or 5 of those, kind of in front of the free throw line floaters. They just weren't dropping for him like they were yesterday or in game 1. Just like I don't want to compare him and Jamal Murray, but the buckets just weren't falling for him. So it's just, I guess, just one of those things. I don't know. Ball don't lie. I don't know, but
it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and again, if you're the Lakers, you hope he shows up. And like you said, can LeBron go out and take over a game? I think honestly against the Warriors, he can.
Yeah,
because he started to find his rhythm in the third, early fourth. I don't think he played the fourth quarter, and I love how I think Jeff Van Gundy, he called out, and I don't know if these are Mike Breen's opinions, and I love Mike Breen. Boom.
Yeah.
I don't know if these are opinions or they're scripted or they're written down or just he goes with the flow of the game. He says, now it's it gives the Lakers the chance to rest, Anthony Davis and LeBron James in the fourth, and to get them off their feet and stuff like that. And Jeff Van Gundy didn't even let him finish, saying that is the most overrated notion in the history of the NBA, give these guys an extra 12 minutes off. And literally, yesterday he called out Mike Breen, I think, at least 3 times. One with the flagrant foul, and one with the resting guys in the fourth. And even Darvin Ham, after in the post game, he said it's really crucial to get those guys off their feet in the fourth quarter when you don't have to play them. I can see it more because you don't want to see them get hurt when you're out there up by 30. And that's been the criticism of Malone when the Nuggets are up big.
Yeah.
But, older guys with LeBron, I think it helps, especially with the ankle, like you mentioned, to get him off his feet.
Yeah, I agree. That's why, again, I harp back to the bubble. That's why it was so important for those guys to get that when they got that time off. That's why, when the Lakers finished their series up, they had to wait a couple days. That's it. It helps for these old guys. It helps for those guys like it helped for Kevin Durant to get the 3.5 days off. If the Nuggets would have played that game in a day or two, or a different schedule, I don't know if we would have saw the same thing, because that's a biggest thing. That's a big thing that people kind of don't, I think, pay too much or don't pay enough in getting these old guys. And LeBron and his surgery, he needs surgery on that foot. Like, there's no doubt about it.
And honestly, he's doing a good job of covering it up. So, all right, we are.
Hey, real quick before we get out of here, Tony Brothers is the crew chief tonight for the Denver Nuggets. So that means get ready for a 2-2 series coming back to Denver.
But doesn't Devin Booker have a horrible record or something when he officiates? Who was that when he officiates has a horrible record against them?
I want to say, wasn't it Curry or LeBron? No, it was somebody.
I thought it was Booker, but I could be.
We'll have to look at it. But Tony Brothers is Tony Brothers. So,
all right. So, game tonight, Matt. Obviously, the series now has to shift back to Denver on Tuesday. What's it coming back as? What's the series going to be?
I feel like it's coming back 2-2. I think it's going to be a really, really close game. But I think Kevin Durant's going to go off. Somebody's going to go off. And these were the 2 games that the Suns need to get. And I think they do get them. But if the Nuggets do win tonight, then the series is over. It's done.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like if Phoenix wins tonight, Matt, I feel like the series is over for the Nuggets for some strange reason. If Phoenix wins tonight, and I know that, luckily the Nuggets have home court, because all you have to do is win at home and you will win the series. But I just have that eerie feeling that if the Phoenix wins tonight, that they're just going to take off. They have all the momentum. I don't know if necessarily they'll get in the Nuggets' heads again like they did 2 years ago when they swept. But you didn't have Kevin Durant back then. I understand the Nuggets didn't have Murray or Porter, but go back to fourth quarter Murray in this last game, you cannot see that again. And you needed to see Porter shoot in that fourth.
Right.
He had the hot hand. I think everyone said it. Even Murray said it. I put that one on me. He can't play hero ball. And if Phoenix wins tonight, I just have this eerie feeling, Matt, that they'll win this series.
You could be right, and I could see that feeling too. And there's a good let's just say this: if Phoenix wins tonight, they go back home 2-2. I'm not watching the next game. My superstition is going to kick in, and I'm not going to watch that game.
I will say this: how about this, Matt? The Nuggets are undefeated, knock on wood, when they play on TNT, and it is a TNT tonight game. And last Friday was an ESPN game. And I think they have a losing. I don't think they have a losing record, but I think they're 1-1 because they've lost only 2 games in the playoffs.
Right.
1-1 when their games are on ESPN, and they're undefeated when they're on TNT.
That's true, because the game that they lost in Minnesota was on ABC or ESPN, one of the two. Well, that's the same. So yeah, I agree.
So knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
That's crazy. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for everyone for listening, tuning in, comments. Keith, with a lot of comments, don't forget to check out the Bronco Roundup on Tuesday nights at 6:30 right here on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Please follow all the socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at 5280 Sports Radio. Follow all of the socials as well. There's a ton of them. On Facebook, just search the Rocky Mountain Sport Network or Elevation 5280 Sports. You can also follow us on Twitter at Matt Mascarenas1, at Michael Spillin, and you can also follow or the Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Instagram at Rocky MTNSN and at 5280 Sports Radio, and again on Twitter RM Sports Network and at 5280 Sports Radio. But that is it for us on this Sunday morning. Go Nuggets. Hopefully they again. Hopefully. I think it'll come back 2-2, but I hope it's 3-1. If they can steal one in Phoenix, like you mentioned, it's going to be hard to possibly overcome that. But I don't know. I don't know where the series goes if Phoenix wins tonight. I just have that eerie feeling that
I'm looking at it. I'm on the same flow as I've been. I'm waiting for a 7-game series.
Yeah, and again, you're crazy if you thought this was going to be a sweep.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully, we will get a post-game reaction right here on Elevation 5280 Sports Facebook page. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, I'll be playing basketball tonight, Matt. And again, every time I wear my Jokic jersey to pick up, knock on wood, they haven't lost. So
do it.
Keep that in mind as well. And I play like Jokic, by the way, on Sunday nights.
Attaboy.
All right. For Matt Mascarenas, I am Michael Spill. We will talk to you next week.